Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Tegar Zuhdi Al Farabi, and today I will explain about assessing listening. This knowledge is important for us who particularly are in teaching degree, and more precisely in English language teaching degree. So I hope this explanation would be beneficial, even if it's just a little bit. Okay, let's go. First section is what is listening by definition. So, one thing you should know, there is a difference between listening and hearing. When we hear, or when we do do an do an activity named hearing, we only hear a noise or sound or voice, but we don't look over the meaning of those noises. So we're just making an input, but we don't really realize, or we don't really investigate what are the meaning behind those inputs. Whereas in listening, when you do listening, you understand, you look over the meaning behind the noises, you interpret the meaning, and you make the input to something different, to something else. You're not just making an input, but also investigate the meaning behind the input, and then you will understand, or you will have a perception based on what you have input. Okay, so I think that was kind of understandable. So we go to the next section, which is the processes of listening, where you see there are three processes of listening, including recognizing the sounds of language and match them to words we already know. So in listening process, first you would understand the word, because you already have the concept of that word inside your mind. So from there you will not face any confusion. Then the second process, after you match the input with the word in your mental lexical, you would group those words into phrases and sentences, which simultaneously help us to figure out or to understand the topic. So after we register the input to a word, then we um, construct those words into phrases or sentences, so that we could understand the communication, we could understand what other people want to convey to us. Then after we construct the phrases or sentences, we connect our prior knowledge, or we connect what we have understand to the inputs to the phrases and sentences, so then we could understand precisely what people or something try to convey to us, try to communicate it to us. Then if we able to establish these three processes, then our listening progress likely to be understandable. We move to assessment types, which is as a English teaching degree will be will be done in our teaching. So there are some assessment types, including picking out a word, recognizing correct tense, distinguishing the meaning of unknown words from context, identifying main ideas, summarizing orally or in writing, listening to specific information, and listening for agent interference or deduction. From here, uh, maybe you think that those assessments are applicable in every school, in every levels of education. But one thing you should know, which I will explain later, that those assessments types sometimes are unmatched with particular education level. However, there are some formats or some ways to do listening test. So depending on the material and the education level of your students, uh, you could possibly you could possibly apply live reading aloud, some like someone speaking live, or you could also apply audio recordings, or you probably would like to apply simulated live discussions or talks like dialogue or lecture. Then after you simulated live discussion, you ask the test taker to answer questions, or you ask your students to answer the questions. And you could also differ the formats you take the answer, either via multiple choice or by writing or responding in the time. So again, it depends on what level you teach and what is the teaching level, what is the teaching purpose, and also what is the material you would like to teach to your students. And the last explanation from me will be what to avoid when we assess listening, including too many skills tests at once. So if if we con- if we conduct a listening test, we don't test every skill at once. We have to focus. We have to set the main goal to what we want to assess to our students. Then from there we set the or we design the test to precisely assess the to precisely assess the desired skill we want to develop, the desired skill we want to know the we would know the desired skills we want to develop, or we want to test its competence. The second thing we should avoid when when we do when we do listening assessment, or when we set or design listening test, is not matching the learner's levels and context. This is what I meant when I said that we should consider the level of education of our students and the goals of our teaching, because without learners education levels and without education goals, we will not be able to design the correct assessment, and we will not able to assess what should have been assessed, and rather we assess something that's less important or not important at all. And also the other thing to the another thing to avoid, including not designing the precise scoring system, which means if you decide to make make an assessment for your students, you have to consider how your students will take the score. Either it's by answering in the spot at the same time, or either it's um take multiple correct answer, or it's just one correct answer for one precise question. You should consider all those things, and from there your assessment will match students needs, and also will match students learning goals, and from there you could assess, or you could measure students competence or students knowledge level more precise, and from there the listening skills will be more developed. Alright guys, those all the material I could explain for assessing listening for today. The last thing I say, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.